to the United States, calling it a major breakthrough for American trade and energy ties. Speaking after talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Bessent has confirmed Beijing has agreed to buy at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans annually for the next 3 years, with other countries set to purchase another 19 million tons. He has also revealed progress on a TikTok transfer deal finalized in Kuala Lumpur and said China's Xi had personally expressed interest in a U.S. pipeline project in Alaska. Bessent has added that Washington will suspend technology export restrictions for 1 year in exchange for China pausing rare earth exports. He has stated the mood between Trump and Xi was one of great respect, even as the U.S. grapples with an ongoing government shutdown that's now starting to hit the economy. Now for this discussion, we welcome Peter Cardillo. He's a chief market economist at Spartan Capitals Securities, joins us live from New York. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us again. Good to see you. Peter, thank you. Peter, now looking at President Trump's Asia trip, what do you think were the highlights and how do you think it could benefit American economy?
Well, I think the fact that, basically there's been a truce declared here. This is somewhat of a breakthrough, but of course there's no final trade deals. But it is good news, and it's good for the economy. It's good for the markets because it basically indicates that eventually there will be a trade deal. Now, for 1 year, the export curbs that were imposed by China on rare materials has been extended for a year, so that's good news. And the fact that other issues were brought up, such as TikTok, which seems now that also is moving along, but of course there weren't any major great details given, but Secretary Bessent did allude to the fact that they have a go-ahead. And all of this means that, it's going to still take time, but at least the tensions that we saw over the past few months will likely ease. In fact, Trump has cut China's tariffs, and so this is a good news for China and good news for us, and that means that perhaps we'll see more of Chinese buying of farm products, in particular soybeans. So it's on the surface good news. Does it mean that it's a total victory? No, absolutely not. But it's a truce and a step in the right direction.
And how might the temporary suspension of technology export restrictions affect the long-term balance of trade between U.S. and China?
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so I was asking, how could this all deals, or how would this restriction also that was imposed on technology affect the long-term balance of trade between the U.S. and China?
I think eventually it'll be positive. I've said this many times in the past. No nation can live on an island by itself. We need trade. If we look back at history, protectionism, look what happened in the early 30s. It took the United States a long, long time to get out of a depression, not only the United States, but the rest of the global economy. So, let's say, while we like to think that there's a new order in terms of an economy, that is really not so. We need to trade. We have technology, certain products that other nations don't have, and vice versa. And for instance, rare materials, uh, you know, this is a big deal for the United States. So the fact that he got a year one extension, I think is good news. It you know, relieves a big problem. And I think it's, again, it marks a step forward in arriving to more concrete trade negotiations and a final trade deal that will be satisfactory to the United States and China.
And lastly, Peter, could these trade and energy deals offset the negative economic effects of the ongoing U.S. government shutdown?
Well, the government shutdown, you know, is costing the United States, I think, 18 billion so far. Um, and of course, the more it lingers, the worse the situation could get for the U.S. economy and for trade factors as well. But again, you know, um, I don't think that we're going to see this shutdown have a major effect, and I don't think it's going to be much long-lasting. Maybe I can't pinpoint exactly when, but you know, I doubt very much that it goes into December. So hopefully, within the next few weeks, there'll be some sort of a breakthrough, and that should relieve a lot of pressures.
With that, I would like to thank Peter Cardillo for joining us and sharing that insight all the way from States. Now we move on to India. According to India's Ministry of External Affairs, India has received a 6-month waiver from U.S. sanctions on Iran's Chabahar port. Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal has stated the exemptions provides relief for India's ongoing development of the strategic Chabahar project, even as talks with the U.S. on a major trade deal continue. Let's listen into this statement.
On your question regarding exemption for Chabahar, yes, I can confirm that we have been granted exemption for a 6-month period on the sanctions that were applicable, American sanctions that were applicable.
Now for this discussion, we welcome Major General, we can continue this news read. The waiver comes weeks after the Trump administration revoked an earlier exemption in September, tightening sanctions as part of its maximum pressure policy on Iran. The latest decision restores India's ability to operate the Shahid Beheshti terminal under a 10-year lease signed in May 2024, with investments worth $370 million through India Ports Global Limited. Chabahar remains critical to India's plan to bypass its western neighbors and establish a direct trade route to Afghanistan and Central Asia, boosting regional connectivity and humanitarian access. Now for this discussion, we welcome retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's a senior geopolitical and strategic expert, joins us live, defense expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Major General, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now thank you.
Thank you, Suna. Yeah.
Thank you. Now looking at this, how does Chabahar waiver enhance India's strategic leverage in Indian Ocean and Central Asian regions, and also how might this nature of this U.S. waiver affect India's long-term defense and logistical planning in this region?
Yeah, very interesting question. Firstly, thank you for inviting me for your show. And Chabahar, as we know, you have given in your preamble that this is a strategic entry and exit point bypassing Pakistan, the western neighbor of India, and to have access through Afghanistan, then going right up to Central Asian Republic, as also gives an access to north-south corridor, north-south multimodal transportation corridor, which is 7,200 kilometers long and passes through it's more than 12 countries. It's an initiative between Russia, India, and Iran, and many other countries have joined. So basically, what I would say that it is not only a strategic win-win case for India, it also provides a suitable entry and exit point to America or USA for future deployment of its resources as also commercial activities. It is to be seen from the perspective of, firstly, from US's point to isolate Iran if they wish to. But the most important point is the nation that is Afghanistan, which is at the crossroad of South Asia, West Asia, and Central Asian Republic. That is the central point. And Bagram airfield having come the way of India, has having been offered for upkeep and maintenance, I think USA will do well to actually having opened up for 6 months or relaxed the embargo for 6 months for times ahead, if it actually wants to contain, counter, and contest China as its number one enemy, as outlined in its strategy, the national security strategy, USA would do well to invest time, energy, and resource and orientate its approach through the Chabahar port and have an opening to actually come up to the central point, that is Bagram airfield, in times ahead. However, for India, it is a very, very successful milestone which has been achieved and major breakthrough with USA. I am given to understand even the tariffs are also going to be reduced to 15%. This is an announcement which Donald Trump had made sometime back in the day. But all these things are very, very healthy and positive signatures of US and India relationship warming up for the larger good of the global geopolitical imperatives as also the regional security. Back to you, Shobha.
And building on that, could this particular deeper involvement in Chabahar strengthen India's security cooperation? What role does this Chabahar port play in countering, you mentioned a little bit, but China's growing influence through this Gwadar port in Pakistan, and also you mentioned the Bagram air base in Afghanistan. How is it connected?
Yeah, no, excellent point. You see, China's influence in the Afghanistan, Iran, and the complete Middle East is well known through the projects of BRI. And also, it is well known to the environment that China has made a commitment of $450 billion in Iran in next 25 to 30 years or so, out of which I think initial investment has already been made in terms of national highways, hydel power stations, railway lines, lots of infrastructure development by China. China basically wants to make deep inroads into the Middle East and continue to expand its BRI so as to make the countries dependent on China in the long term. That is the ultimate aim. Now, India, on the contrary, is trying to make its move, strategically speaking. It is trying to counter this China's expansion of BRI projects and such like infrastructure developments in the region. So while China is also investing time and resources in Gwadar, Gwadar is not very far off Chabahar, it is in Pakistan. So, but the CPEC is a big question today in the minds of Chinese because it has been subjected to very heavy attrition from the Balochi Liberation Army in Balochistan, and the entire length of CPEC, which is approximately 3,000 odd kilometers, is complete only 40% of the total length, and the hydropower stations, as also many major infrastructure developments, they have been put on hold because China is not able to pay back or carry out regular debt servicing or the interest servicing. So therefore, China is actually thinking twice whether to go ahead with this or have a diversion through Wakhan corridor into Afghanistan. So such are the interests of China as on today. And to counter it effectively, India has to have Chabahar open 24 into 7, 365. It needs to negotiate with America in a very constructive and result-oriented manner in future. Only then all our projects will turn out to be very, very successful in Afghanistan. One point which you asked was about the clash of interest between China and Afghanistan. Yes, there is a clash of interest. There is going to be a kind of a contestation as far as the expansion of its respective footprint and national interest is concerned, but majorly it is going to turn into a strategic rivalry between China and USA. India is going to be a kind of a regional power to address its security concerns from the western flank. That is how I look at it. And also to take back Pakistan occupied Jammu Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan sooner the better from Pakistan itself. Back to you, Asoma.
With that, I would like to thank Major General Sudhakar